And this is something that has happened to a lot of women, if just watching. So the only thing I can say to women is you have first, just the way our professor said, love yourself and know yourself. And when you know yourself, somebody outside you cannot tell you who you are. When you know your worth, you can be able to stand up against anything. And then doubt will not bring you down because you know what you have inside you. And when you try to make outside forces not to control your inside, then you are able to take us every step in life without worry, without, as a woman, without feeling like you are somebody that you're not supposed to be. But what I can say for you to empower yourself like a woman, it is just to know what are you good at. What are you good at? What can I do that I can feel I can empower myself? Because as a woman, one thing you need to know, you cannot just run, doing this, doing that, and forget yourself. Because that is why you see yourself going down. Instead of you helping others, you are the one to be helped. But if you sit down and think and look and know that I need to help this lady, I need just to tell her, it doesn't matter. Don't let your children put you down. Because your children can even make you doubt yourself and think, I have not been a good mother. Your husband can make you feel that you're not a good wife. So many forces are outside, but you have to know yourself. You have to know your self-worth, and don't let this thing put you down. That's what I can say right now.
Thank you for that. I'm sure you want to add to that.
Yes. This is, yes. So if I can piggyback on that and just build off of that, another aspect is creating spaces that counteract that. I'm very big on, in the research world, we call it counter-narrative spaces, counter spaces that go against what others are saying that does not align with who you are. So if, for example, like just us right here, we have to be in each other's space all the time. Because by seeing you and you being who you are, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's a boss. She is out here just slaying and doing things, looking fashionable. She's doing it, and she looks like she has sleep. I can do that. You can only dream as far as you see. You can only think as far as your reality. So I have to, if I'm that strong woman, I have to now take accountability and action and find other like-minded women. So that way, if they correct me even, they do it without any words. I love being in spaces where you will encourage me just by existing. And I'm like, my goodness, I can do that too. And you didn't speak. You didn't say, Elizabeth, you can do better. Elizabeth, you should. You were truly your authentic self doing what you're doing.
That's
right?
powerful.
And
I love it.
And so we have to be in those spaces, and we have to create those spaces. Michelle Obama has the quote. I'm a big quote person, but I'm going to paraphrase it. She says you need 3 types of women in your life. A woman you can look up to, that you can see, basically a mentor. You also need somebody you can do life with, your peer at every level, your ride or die girl. Y'all have been from the village together, you've grown together, but a woman that you're also pulling as well, and you're becoming the mentor, so a mentee. So if we do that and we create those spaces, if I walk in self-doubt, when I walk into that space, I'm like, if she can do it, I can do it. And then you help me, just by existing, counteract my imposter syndrome. So when I go out there and I'm hyped up, I do what I need to do, and my resilience is being torn, I come back to this space, I get pumped up again to go back out there and continue doing what I'm doing. Yeah.
That's wonderful. It's so powerful that you said that. I feel the same way, and it took me a while to really recognize and realize and get to a place where I truly love and understand who I am. Because I think oftentimes as you're growing up, as Ms. Karen was saying, is that we have this thing about comparing ourselves, constantly comparing who we are, what we look like, who we're associated with. And I think once we're grounded, as you said, and find a space where, you know, you have the mentee, you have someone who's supportive, and it's not a competition. You know, we're all just completing each other. And I think that's the most important aspect, because sometimes it's left out of business as we do business, because I can say, you know what, this is what I do. I'm an export-importer. I'm into real estate, and all of a sudden you have this image of me, or you might see a picture of me, and then you don't really know me, but you might come to assumptions. Yeah. So I think it's a matter of all the things that you guys have talked about and put together. As women, it's very different. I think we're extremely powerful. In fact, you know, not to put men down, I love all the men in this room, but I think women are extremely powerful because we're the ones who, as you said, run our families, right? We deal with a lot of things at home. We deal with a lot of things in the business community. But I think more importantly, I think is to look at ourselves, as you said. Viva, for example, you joined these organizations in Boston, and you decided to join OVC because you wanted to make impact. So as a leader in your position, because we all have leadership positions, right? Whether we know it or not, you're a mentor to someone.
That's right, yeah.
So what would you add to that to say, in fact, the reasons that you do what you do, what brings you to the community to serve?
To get started, I had a good mentor. Mentorship is the key thing for everybody to just learn from, to look up, to get strength from, and to see an example of. And so as a leader, I am also a mentor, but to get here, I had mentors that spoke into my life, held my hand, and led me to that next step. And so that was really, really key. Another thing that I also talk about too is internship. Having the opportunity to intern somewhere of your liking, or a choice that you've been connected with, whether it's in high school or coming out of college, and being able to just associate with leaders in the area. So when you get to be an intern somewhere and you have the guidance, whether it's corporate or any kind of institution, it also helps to strengthen you as well. Sponsorship is another thing as well too, that we get to sponsor. Being immigrants coming to the diaspora, we get to sponsor people from back home, for example, in Kenya, lend a hand, encourage someone, and be a building, gap or a bridge to help sponsor someone in whatever area of interest that they have in. So I would say those three items would be key.
And then from there you actually find your I guess purpose and passion.
Exactly right.
Because when you have your purpose and passion, then hopefully it leads you to the people that you need.
That's right.
Right.
You got it. That's right.
So a little bit more about self-care, self-love. Tell me a story, Professor, that reminds you of someone that you see now, that reminds you of you, and you feel like, okay, that looks like me several years ago. And how does it feel to be where you are now, and when you look at that person?
Ooh, it's a great question.
Even
my heart and my, it's a great question, and it's one I think we should ask all the time. I have a few mentees. One that I can think of is Rachel, who I will be traveling to Atlanta for her graduation. She's graduating with a bachelor's degree. I connected with her, connected with her in 2014. I hadn't even graduated with my PhD yet. I was still trying. I was in that dissertation phase. I'm like, is this what I really wanted to do? But I was invited to Boston for to preach at a conference, a youth conference. And I facilitated sessions and all those things, and that's where we connected. But her youth pastor, who's a woman, said, hey, I really want to connect you with Rachel because I really think that you can, she needs you. I was like, okay, well, if she needs me, then me is her. And we connected. We started talking on the phone, and you have to be intentional. She's on my calendar. And I always tell people, if you're not on my calendar, if I see you at Walmart, I'll say hi to you. But I'm a planner because you have to be very intentional we only have so much time. And if we don't plan for it, we will waste it. And once wasted, you cannot use it. So we started planning where we would talk every 2 weeks, right? And there will be times we would have to reschedule. And I said, okay, we know we're going to pick a day. We're going to stick with it. Find the time. So I had to adapt to her schedule, but because I knew I needed to, I said, okay, I'm going to put it on my calendar. Woo, we're going to talk at 10 p.m. Oh my gosh, you know what? If that's it, then that's it. So, and I have seen her develop. I have seen her go through different phases of life, and I've been that sounding board, and her mom knows I mentor her, and because you have to walk in accountability. So her mom knew I was talking to her, and whenever it was something she needed to tell her mom, I said, hey, I want you to go tell your mom XYZ, and then tell me that you told her. I'm not going to tell her because I want to maintain this trust that you and I have, but this is something I do want you to tell her and hold you accountable to that. And she would, and I would text her mom and say, hey, just to let you know, I'm aware. Let me know if I can do anything, because I also have to respect her authority figure and respect her mother. And through that time, she comes to visit me every summer, right? We stay for a whole week. I clear my whole schedule. I take her everywhere. If I'm preaching, if I'm doing, so she's able to see all those things. She's able to even see now I'm an extrovert out there, and then when I come home, because I have a lot. And she's like, how do you do this? So in those conversations, she's learning to be a woman of excellence. It requires, she sees me being on my computer for 3 hours before I go speak or before I do something. So she's learning all of those things, and she's taken up some of those characteristics. And she's graduating, and she is, I'm writing one of her medical school recommendation letters. She is wanting to get into entrepreneurship, so she already has our LLC. And I've worked with her on all these, and some of those experiences I don't have, but I do my due diligence to say, you know what, read this, do that. So before I speak with her and I know that's what she's doing, I do the homework, and she keeps me accountable to myself as well. Because I'm like, for me to continue being impactful, I have to take care of myself. So she becomes my mirror all of a sudden. Yes, I'm mentoring her, but she becomes the one that holds me accountable in the decisions I'm making. What would Rachel think? What would Rachel say about Dr. E if she saw Dr. E say that? Is that what the message I'm trying to show her? If it's not, I autocorrect, and I continue being what Rachel would look up to. So she becomes a mirror, I become her model. And it's been beautiful to see, and I'm excited. And she's also now has a mentee that's 3 years younger than her. And she goes, yeah, we have calls with Shiko every Saturday. We pray together. So she got a model from our interaction, and she's bequeathing it. And all of a sudden, that quote that Michelle Obama says, have somebody in front of you, have somebody you can do life with, have somebody you can pull up. So it reminds me of why I do what I do. So when I'm really tired, and those 10 p.m. calls, I'm reminded 3 hours before, I'm like, whoo, okay. But then when I talk to her, she's excited. I'm like, yeah, this is why I do what I do.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. I think oftentimes, yes, please clap for her. I think oftentimes, we get caught up in the hard part, right? Yeah. The hard part of even just being here this early this morning. A lot of people are just like, you know what? It's Saturday, it's 9 o'clock, I'm not getting out of bed, you guys need to change your time. But I think it's important to realize that when it comes to the things you want in life, Karen, it takes a little bit more work than, we're not saying it's easy, right? It's not easy for you to be here last night, be here in the morning, get involved, but what is your experience on managing your life this way? Whether having your own business, work, doing these other events that you do, how do you manage that?
Well, let me say this. First, you have to have a heart to serve. That's number one. If you're not a server or you don't know that purpose in your life, then it's going to be hard. However, this is something I've experienced, and for me to do what I do, it comes natural, let me say that. But you have to have somebody you're looking at who is giving so much and emulate them because that is what you want to be. For me, that is something I have come to realize is like, when I'm giving to the community, I feel fulfilled. When I'm doing all this, yes, I get tired. Even my children complain though, but they do. They say like, again? I say, of course. Because one thing in my heart I always think about when it comes to empowering women, it's just to say to them, yes, you can do what I'm doing. Yes, you don't have to work 16 hours a day. It looks like I do that because even after my own job, I'm on the calls, conference calls, so you think that I work too much. But think about it this way. I have a woman out there who may be thinking that I cannot be able to do another business. I cannot be able to do a side business. You can. You can be able to do anything as long as you put your heart into. And me, I always tell women, when I'm talking to women, I always say this. Yes, self-love first. Remember to take a breather. And when you take that breath, then try to talk to somebody and help them. If they are just working 8 hours, try to show them that you can even start selling in Amazon. Oh, you can be a YouTuber. You just don't have to just sit there and work 8 hours, get beaten in the evening, sitting on the couch, watching movies. No, as a woman, there are so many things we can do. And to me, I always feel like when I'm talking to people, when I'm talking to women, I feel like I am serving the universe. I don't know how I can explain it. Everything I do, I feel like it's service. And yes, I get tired, to be honest, but at the end of the day, I am serving, and that's what I do.
And you know, we're human, right? So of course, we have to, one of the things I think we usually battle with is our mental and emotional care, as you said. That's why you said self-care is extremely important. And if you're not mentally fit, which is a priority, and you're not physically fit, so you have to have that work-life balance. And you know, oftentimes I think when people look at what I do with the East Africa Business Network or what you do in your organizations and your community, it seems as though we're just different from them. But I'm not any different from anyone in this room. I think it's just that we all have different wants and different expectations, and I think the expectation lies with who you are, right? And if you're a person who serves, then you know that's your choice. Yeah. But I think we all have a different way of doing it. So I think it's important to also share the resources. So what I like to do is ask you, Professor, and then I'll go down the line about some of the resources, and this will probably be our last questions before we go to the audience for questions. But what are some of the resources that you really love, the tools that you use, you know, that work for you? And I'll start with myself. One of the things I do, I have to have that moment, an hour, believe it or not, in the morning where I'm just tending to me and what I want to do, whether it's praying, I meditate, I have my, you know, my words to myself that I speak to myself, the positivity and what I expect during the day, have my coffee, walk my dogs, whatever I need to do to get mentally fit and get in a space where I can serve. And so that helps me a lot. It doesn't necessarily help everyone, but what do you do?
Yeah. In addition to that, I'm an avid reader, and reading gets me a lot of information and learning from other women that are in the spaces that I want to be in, and they tell their story so I can learn from it. So I read a lot. I run 2 book clubs, one at work and then becoming engaged for the community. I'm sure some of the women here are in that already. And that helps me, for example, read about Viola Davis, right? I'm reading her memoir right now and see the struggle, because we see the crown but not the story. We see the, oh my gosh, she's wow. But her life. And I won't be able to talk with Viola ever. Right. But she's given me words, right? So I take what I have started doing is I'm really being intentional about my screen time, because that comparison when you're scrolling on Instagram, you're like, okay, you know, yeah.
I stay away from that.
Yes, so I've tried to, the very beginning of the day and the very last minute of the days, I'm reading. In the morning, it's my Bible, of course, and my devotion. But in the evening is reading at least 30 minutes, an hour of something, and I've been very intentional about curating a reading list that will help me be a better version of me and be able to help others. So reading is probably one of the greatest things that I do. When I'm by myself in the car, I actually, if I'm not on a phone call, I don't listen to music. I don't listen to a podcast, because that's the only time, other than the shower, when it's just me, I have my thoughts. So I just let my thoughts run. And I've found out that giving myself those pockets of time really helped me get back to where I need to be emotionally, mentally, spiritually, because you can get so busy that, Elizabeth, when was the last time you ate a good breakfast, like a really good breakfast? When was the last time you actually thought about yourself, why you do what you do and where you're going? Maybe 3 weeks. The last time I was with my girls for brunch. So reading and being intentional about how I end my day. And then when I'm driving, if I'm not on the phone, my radio is off. Other than my GPS, it's just me and my thoughts and me. That has really helped. Yeah.
I totally agree. I think it's important when, not to necessarily be in your head all the time, but whatever time you structure, whether it's, I'm like you, I love to read because there's always a message I'm looking for, and typically what you look for is what you find, right? But at the end of the day, I think it's important to do all those things that feed your soul. So I think it's important to be able to share that. I'm sure you share that with your community. You share that with your community, and I try to do the same, and sometimes it's just fitting it in. So it doesn't matter if you have to wake up at 5 in the morning, as long as you get your time. Right. Viva, what about you?
For me, the resources that I lean to would be a few, keeping in mind that, for example, the parable in the Bible about the talents, where the person who doubled their talents was given more. And what that translates for us, it means that if you do good in the community, if you give of yourself, more naturally will come towards you, because you're a resource to the people around you. And I find that I fall in that category a lot. I am always overextended, giving of myself in our community, in my church as well. But I help, and I do it lovingly and freely. And so what I lean to help me be able to do that is a few things. One is my spiritual connection with God. At my church, I fellowship at Hope Restoration Ministry in Worcester, Massachusetts. And we have prayers. So we have Wednesday night prayers where we just get in, soak in, and do that hour of prayer. It's just a focused session of prayer where you release yourself and you're praying amongst others, and also learning and sharing from them too. So it's a learning moment, a release moment, and a build-up moment where you fill yourself up and be able to give out. So one is a spiritual connection. Two is family. I come from a family. I have 2 siblings, 2 sisters and 1 brother. We're 4 in total. And we have weekly meetings where we connect as a family and talk and just intentionally find out, hey, how are you doing? What is going on in your family? What's going on in your personal life? Hey, what's happening in a certain area? And then, of course, if we have any family issues and topics that we talk about, we do that as well. And my husband as well, we, of course, regularly connect, engage, have a chance to depress and share, so we can build up from each other as well there. Another resource as well is just friendship, the friends around you, a network of people around you that are able to help you build up. You can share a joke, you can share a moment, an inspiration from. And so those for me would be, in addition to what we've all shared here, those 3 is a spiritual connection, family connection, and a friend group or a friend network that can help build you up and solidify you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, because it's very similar, right? It's very similar that we all connect with our communities, but I think bringing up people, inspiring people is extremely important to me, especially because there's a lot of people who are not going to be brave enough to do some of the things that you're saying, not because they don't want to, maybe because they don't have the right people in place, or maybe they're not open to speaking about that. Or don't understand that, sometimes, I can't say all the time, but most of the time what you give is what you get, right? So I think it's important to be able to share that. Ms. Karen, what about you?
Well, when it comes to a routine, the way you asked in the morning, I'm an early waker, and also I sleep very early. So when I wake up in the morning, those people, especially who knows me, I don't watch TV at all. That's it. Unless I'm passing on on the lobby and I see the TV there, that's it. Or when I'm passing my living room and my children are just concentrating on the TV. I don't know what people see on that TV, but I don't. Okay, that's number one. And number two, yes, I go to the social media, but not in the morning. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is to meditate. After I meditate, I'm a leader. I lead a lot. And I think, and maybe a loner. I like to be by myself. You know, I like a space, the quiet place. I don't know how I can call it, but I like to have that quiet time a lot. So I can wake up on Saturday, and everybody will not even know if I'm in that house. I'm still in my bedroom, closed, but I have a book I'm reading. So some things I gain in life, and even to be able to give out, I find them in the morning. In that quiet time, I get inspirations. I'm able to speak to somebody, and before I forget, I don't answer my calls before 9. No. Unless I see it's one of my children calling me because they know, but I don't know why they're calling me. I will answer, but it's not that I fear to answer calls, but I hate any negativity on my space in the morning.
Right. Because you make sure it turns to be
yes, because
day.
it's gonna rule your day. And then I do my affirmation. Yeah, I speak to myself, I speak to my day, and I say what I want. And I think a lot of us, why we succeed in so many things and be able to serve, it's because of that quiet time. Just being yourself, going deeper inside, meditating, and then don't let all this negativity enter you. Okay, it's flooding in Kenya. Why am I reading about it? Yeah. Why don't I just pray to God to help them? I don't need to wake up in the morning and see that news. Right. No, I don't.
You're right.
To be honest, I don't. And also, okay, election is coming, okay. What does that have to do with me? Because I'll vote, okay? But don't tell me every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't, I try to keep my mind just concentrating on the things I want and the things I want to give. Yeah.
Let me share another resource. The Do Not Disturb mode on your phone. I have 4 Do Not Disturb settings. I have the one that comes on automatically 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. Yeah. And then I have my work mode, Monday through Fridays from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Yeah. And then in the morning, from 7 a to about 9 a.m., I have devotion time. And within those, I have actually gone in and adjusted them. So for my work mode, my family is my favorites is able to call me, but then my boss and the secretary. Right. Because I figure if a student needs me, like calling, they will call my boss, and my boss will call me. And then for my early devotion, it's only my mother and my brother. Because I figure if there's an emergency with my father, my mom will be there. She can call me. There's an emergency with my sister, she should be calling my mother and my father. If there's an emergency with the church, they will call the pastor, and then the pastor and then they will call me. And then my regular Do Not Disturb, I have my family and then 2 leaders from the church. And the reason is if somebody calls me and it's an emergency, if they don't know my emergency call list, then they should be calling 911 and not Elizabeth, right? So I have to be, and it automatically comes on. So that way, because when you are in the community, your phone will be one of the frequently given phones, right? My phone number is given out without me knowing. So I will be a frequent contact for people. So when I am trying to build into myself, I have to create that space. And we see that we started with prayer, so we know we are